anything going on because it's our package. Isn't it great?
No wonder we can stay.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. It's a good
You
place.
guys see so much better than Catholics.
You got good music here. You know, we're just kind of rebuilding after COVID, isn't that?
Yeah.
got one this week and one next week on Tuesday. Tuesday seems to be my lunch day, I guess.
Where are you going?
Today we're going to Mora's.
Uh-huh.
I go with some women friends. Fuzzy Briscoe, I don't know if you know her, and Kathy O'Shea, you wouldn't know her, she lives out in Grangeville.
How do you know them?
Well, I've known Fuzzy ever since we lived here. She Fuzzy and Nikki Briscoe. So we've been friends for
Not through any
50
particular
years. 50
organization?
years, no, we're just friends.
Yeah.
And Kathy and Dick, we got to know through George Will, they're friends of his. And we girls just started our own little group, Sally Knapp. You know Sally, she's in it, but she's not here right now.
It's a different
Well,
look.
that's with us. Good morning.
Hi. Hi. Sorry, I'm late.
I didn't know who was driving that white Honda. With the cap.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, they give you such a.
I was out gardening already this
Oh.
morning, so I'm kind of a filthy mess.
Do you want to wash your hands, Diane?
I did. I washed them, but I don't know how well. I was rushing. 'Cause then
We will take you any way you show up with the following exceptions.
I bought a beautiful hydrangea.
You
It's
did?
very expensive.
What? Have you lost your mind?
I read all about, how to plant it, and it said plant in early morning. So I said, all right, gotta do it now, because the rain's coming.
Where'd you put it?
In the front, I had a deck put on, and they really destroyed all of the ground around that area, so I've been trying to landscape it, and I think I'm almost done. This was my last, I went hunting high and low for the right hydrangea.
What is that? Is
They're
that?
beautiful.
I think I have a whole bunch of that.
Yeah, there's all different species of them, and they
Yeah.
come with the big,
Yeah, I have that at my house. Yeah, big balls of.
They're beautiful. And
Yeah,
they
that's what I have.
last so long, you can dry them,
Yeah,
and they stay
yeah.
all beautiful.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got people that steal them from me. You know, I'll come home and
They're
they're missing.
Yeah.
You mean the whole plant?
No.
Yeah, they just dig them up.
Flowers.
Yeah, they dig up the whole plant. Yeah. I've never caught them.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. I thought it was Diane there for a while, but it's not. Yeah, they do. And they're gone. Well, I got a lot of them, so they come back up.
I wouldn't steal them.
They spread out. If we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've got a good crop this year.
About hydrangeas, so
You what?
I'm not that knowledgeable about hydrangeas.
Well, I don't know anything about anything.
And they have, the colors can be different colors depending upon the acidity of the
pH.
soil.
Oh,
They're-
okay.
If it's alkali, it's pink. If
And
it's acid,
it
it's
can be
blue.
Yeah, these are blue.
Or something
Yeah.
in between.
Yeah.
You can change it, if you can add
Yeah.
acid to the soil to make them blue if you
To
want
make them
to.
different,
You know.
to make them,
Right.
what color are yours?
Blue, even
Some of them around here.
even almost purple. They get really dark. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there'll be spaces where they're gone. Yeah. They're digging. People are digging.
Yeah, the peonies, they should be
I
beautiful
do.
now.
Yeah, those are nice too.
This is sad to say I mow them over.
Oh,
My peonies were gorgeous.
oh, this year I've seen them, we don't have anything, we don't have anything now.
There's,
Right,
there's,
thank God.
they're easy,
But,
you know, they're such easy
but we
plants.
used to
Yeah, I got it.
have them on.
Really?
So why did you say move?
Yeah, that's the problem.
All over and
Once
they
it
attract
rains, they.
Well, they have-
They have to have ants to open up
The
the.
Yeah,
ants
the
have
ants,
to be
the
there.
ants help them open up.
I used to dip them in a bucket of water until the ants all got off. And then I'd take them inside.
Well, are we at?
Yeah, I spoke to Pat.
Huh?
I spoke to Pat. She's out in Oklahoma.
Okay.
I guess she can't make it.
Yeah, but she tried, I guess the first week she did get it on YouTube. Last week she said she couldn't find it. I
Is
just
it-
pulled her now.
It's on, because I saw it last week. It's archived.
She
Tell her
got you.
Pat, turn your phone on.
I may leave a couple minutes early. 'cause
Okay.
Today's my luncheon with the girls.
Oh. Where are you going?
Morris, we always go to Morris because they let us.
I thought you were thrown out of that place.
They let us alone, maybe once, but no.
That was the word
No,
on the
no,
street, that it got so rowdy.
That wasn't Morris, that was in the cafe.
You don't go.
They used to have one.
Who told me that you guys were, oh, it was George. George told me that.
Yeah, he'll want.
Welcome, welcome.
What we talk about, what is Nancy?
She was too tired today.
Oh,
We
Oh,
went to that dinner last night. It was very nice. The one at St. Joseph's?
oh, yeah. The women of the skillet?
The women.
The women's
Is that the name of it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Dinner last
That's what I
night,
meant.
yeah.
Yeah, there was only 4 from Lyall.
That's
But,
4
you know,
too many.
Miriam And
No, it's,
Adelaide were there.
oh, good.
Well, were there a lot of people there? A lot of women from
Everybody else was St. Joseph's. So I would say there was 5 tables or something.
Oh, well, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was very nice.
Good.
Yeah, very nice. And my mom says she's not sick, she's just tired.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know.
She says, make sure you tell Pastor Tom that.
It's good to know.
How are you? Good to have you back.
Does
And
every-
Maureen had an appointment, so I know she's not coming.
With whom?
Maureen,
Yeah.
she had an appointment.
With whom?
Huh?
With whom?
Oh,
Come on, Cindy. You gotta interrogate these people. Huh?
We need facts.
That's right. What's the 411?
What's this mean? Is it more important than this?
Well, that's what I was driving at.
Oh, right.
It should be pretty,
We need the facts.
pretty, say the word damn, but I'm not gonna do that. But, okay, well, let's have our prayers and let's see if we can get through this, huh? Lord, we ask that you would take our experiences, our strength, and our hopes, our intellect, our heart, in order to discern your word. We ask that you would give us spirit enough to guide us and maybe do something about it. Praise the Lord. Amen. I hate this chair. Sorry, I can't stay. I can't take it. There's a better one.
Somebody needs to glue that. Put some glue on that.
Who's our setup guy around here?
I am.
You know, at the cathedral, we have a setup guy.
Uh-huh.
AD and all that stuff. That was fun. Okay, I want to look at Acts 9. We'll take a look at the conversion of St. Paul. Should we do that? It's not unusual in the Bible to have name changes. So if something really significant in the story of another person and who's interacting with the story of God, it's not unusual for a name to change. Can you think of any examples?
Yeah. Abram.
In the Bible,
It was Abram.
Abram became Abraham. What about Jacob? Jacob becomes
Israel.
Israel. The one who wrestles with God. That's what Israel means.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the one, because
I knew he was wrestling.
he wrestled at the Jabbok River, right? Israel means the one who wrestles with God, and it means the God who wrestles with us. Don't you love that? I just love that.
And Peter was, wasn't he something?
Simon?
Simon, right?
And
Eve became Ginny.
Who?
No, that's not right. No, she didn't become Ginny.
Sarai became Sarah.
Yes,
Paul, Saul became Paul.
we're going to see that. Yeah, exactly. Saul became Paul. I'm sorry, we're full.
Too bad.
That's what I like. A little growl. Lyall does have a little growl. I love that about Lyall. There's just a little growl. I've always loved that about Lyall. Just a little growl. We're talking about name changes. Karen, you're little Debbie before you changed your name.
I was. Little Debbie?
Little Debbie, you became Karen.
Okay.
All right. I changed the spelling of my name from Tom, T-O-M, to T-H-O-M after I lived in Amsterdam, because that's how they spelled it. I liked it, so I said, all right, I like it. Okay.
Is your full, is it Thomas?
Thomas, yeah, Thomas.
Did you use the example of Tabitha and Deborah? I missed it.
No,
Or Dorcas, Tabitha and Dorcas.
very good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you see that when there's a crossroads in a person's life with regard to God's story. That's why if you're from the Catholic Church and you have your first confirmation, you have another name, right?
Mhm.
You remember what your name was?
Mary,
Little Mary.
Patricia.
You were Patricia?
Teresa.
Teresa? And that's the tradition. When you have a major crossroad in the story of God, you have another name. That's where that comes from.
But
Nicholas.
Yours what?
Plenty was Nicholas. I didn't get another name.
Like Saint Nicholas? I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that Paul and Saul is the Hebrew version and Paul is the Greek version.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. Yeah, that's possible. Okay. So shall we read Acts 9 through 9? 1 through 9? Sorry.
Meanwhile, Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any who belonged to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. Now, as he was going along and approaching Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground, and he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? He asked, Who are you, Lord? The reply came, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. But get up and enter the city, and you will be told what you are to do. The men who were traveling with him stood speechless because they heard the voice but saw no one. Saul got up from the ground, and though his eyes were open, he could see nothing. So they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. For 3 days he was without sight and neither ate or drank.
Okay. Wow, wait. Some story, huh? So he's heading over to Damascus? What country is that in? No?
Syria?
Syria, right. Yeah. There were a lot of Christians in Syria, in Iraq. What's the capital of Iraq?
Mixed up between Tehran and Baghdad.
Baghdad. Prior to the Second Gulf War, there were 1 million Christians in Baghdad. You know how many there are now? Are we that stupid as a country? What a stupid country. There are about 50,000 now. There were 1 million. 1 million Christians that we were bombing. 1 million. Anyway, when we read the news about the Middle East, a lot of these cities, like Damascus, like Baghdad, and so on, there are a lot of Christians in those cities because of this. Because of this. I just want to remind you, there's not one white person in the Bible. How does that strike you? There's not one white person in the Bible. Not one. Let that sink in.
Well, wasn't it have to do with where this whole thing happened?
Right.
It has
Exactly.
nothing to do with the whites not wanting to live there, just that's the culture. of the
That's
whole
right.
area.
These stories happen in the Middle East
Right.
for the most part.
Right,
The rim, the
Right.
Mediterranean rim, let's
Right.
say, northern Africa,
right,
let's say. Yeah, this is where these dramas happen.
right.
All I'm saying is that I think a lot of white people think these are white people doing this. They're not. These aren't Europeans.
I never thought about it, I just think.
Isn't that
it's
something?
Godly people.
Yeah, it's something though. Well, you're probably a better person than I am. Well, that's not hard. But all right. So he's going to Damascus. Why is he going there?
Well, he's purging, he's trying to clear out the Christians, bring them to Jerusalem for, I don't know, trial or...
Yeah. What has he done? Do you know that? Yeah. Okay. So these are people that are guilty of what? These are Jewish Christians now. These are Jewish people that have become Christians. They're still hanging out in the synagogue. They're still in the synagogue, worshiping every Saturday on the Sabbath. They're proclaiming that Jesus is the Messiah. Got the picture? And Paul is kind of like, remember Chuck Colson? He worked for Nixon. He was the enforcer, right? He was the enforcer. And Saul in these stories is the Chuck Colson of the Jewish establishment. He's the hammer.
He persecutes them.
He's the one that's going to persecute. Earlier on, I mean, we can't do all these stories. There's too many for such a short little course. But there's a deacon by the name of Stephen. He's the first martyr, right? Do I have that right? I think so.
Yeah.
Deacons nowadays don't preach, but he preached a sermon that really ticked off the Jewish establishment. Paul got involved. Saul got involved. He's an older guy. So they stoned Stephen to death. Now we're not talking about stones, stones. We're talking about stones. You smash a person to death. You smash them. So they're just a puddle is what's left. Well, Saul at this point is a little too old to grab one of these bowling balls, And so what does he do?
Oh, his coat.
He holds everybody's coats.
He's such a gentleman, isn't he?
He's fabulous. This guy is a winner, right? Yeah. He's the enforcer.
So, I have a question. It hit me here when he was talking about he's going to Damascus to find these people that belong to the way.
Right.
So
Now
that what the way was?
Yeah.
The way. It sounds like a cult, right?
Yeah, it sure does. There was a cult called the Way earlier on in the 20th century. Yeah. This is what, I'm sorry. Good luck and have a nice...
I remember there being a way.
Huh?
I remember a call.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
Way.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Way, it was not called the church. I mean, you can go into the Gospels and we're in John, where Jesus is calling the church. But that's being written after the church is established. So they're reading history backwards, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, especially in the Bible. It's not history, strictly speaking. But the early church was called the people of the Way. Remember the Way, the Bible? Remember that? That was my first Bible too. Yeah, that was in high school.
I enjoyed that.
The Way, yeah. A paraphrase, yeah. It's a great way to learn the Bible. These are people of the Way. Why would they call themselves that? They don't call themselves Christians either, by the way. The Romans,
Way of life, right?
it's a way of life. It's a movement.
Right, an understanding.
Well, it's an understanding on the move. It's a,
The basics of.
You see where I'm going?
The basics of it.
yeah, I mean, how many times in the Old Testament, for instance, is there a depiction of movement?
Yeah.
I mean, physically moving. Who are the first characters that are moving?
And
Right, they get tossed out of the garden, right? They're on the move. They're on the move. They go to Eden, right, east of Eden, if you want to read the book. It's a movement.
Does it have anything to do with Jesus calling himself the way?
The-
I am the way.
I love that. Right, the way, the truth, and the life. Exactly, right. Being a part of the reality of God, you can make an argument, meaning, and the argument is, you will be a person on the way.
Yeah.
Now, what does that suggest?
you're on the path to salvation or truth and light.
Okay, truth, light,
You're
salvation.
on the path to Jesus' way of
Yeah.
life.
Okay, so you're following a way too. It's already been established. You know,
Always
Jesus.
learning, never stagnant.
Right, terrific. Yeah. What else?
And there's a destination.
So, forgive me.
A destination.
Yeah, right. A destination, and that's the other side. People talk about this. Old Testament scholars, they talk about there's this impulse between being on the way, on the move in the Bible, and being established.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring you to a land of milk and honey, established. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's this tension. There's this tension because if you read the Bible through, all the really horrible things, or a lot of the horrible things that happen to the people of God, are when they're established.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Why is that? What happens to us when we're...
We get stagnant, I guess.
That's the word. You get... Isn't it true? It's true too, right? You get stagnant. If you're not growing,
You're standing still.
you're standing still. And
Well, you become an attitude of human. You could become an attitude of, I don't need to learn anymore. I'm happy where I am.
exactly.
About you and not
It's about...
God in you.
Love it, yeah. And I think you become defensive,
Yes. I agree with
right?
that.
You defend
I
what
agree.
you've got. You conserve. You can probably see where I'm heading with this. You conserve. You're conservative in the worst sense of the word. You're conserving what you have. And that is antithetical to the preponderance of the stories in the Bible. You have to keep being open. It's you're going to be on an odyssey, a pilgrimage. You're moving. You're going to be the word education, for instance. And I haven't found a teacher yet that knew the word. Karen, here's your time to shine. Education is Latin for educare, which means moving from here to here. So teachers are moving themselves, growing, moving, and you move your students,
Constant learning.
right? Constant learning, educare. You knew
I
that.
like that comment you made about, we were talking about stagnant, about defensive. I picture that, and I picture when you're in movement, no matter if it's one step at a time, you skip a couple steps, whatever it is, you can't be defensive when you're moving, because you're always in that, what am I doing? What's the next step?
Right, you have to
When
be
you
open.
sit back and you're not moving, that's when it's easy to be defensive.
Right,
Because you have time to be defensive.
that's right, yeah.
Otherwise, you're not thinking about it.
I had a professor, the one that sent me to Amsterdam, he said, just say yes to everything.
Do you yes, everybody?
He said, yes, just say yes to everything.
Oh.
Just do it. Go anything. Go yes. Say yes to everything. So I did. I got stories to tell you. almost all of them I'm proud of. Well, now, so let's get you back here somehow. All right, so that's what Saul is up to, and he's got this history now. He's the hammer, and he's got a clean house.
Can you give like a time frame when, how many years after Jesus is dead?
Very few.
Like within 10 years?
Yeah, way before that. Let's say 2 years after
Oh, so
Jesus.
this
3
is
years after.
hot.
Yeah, this is hot.
Early on.
Very early. In fact, if you want to read the earliest stuff, the earliest Christian stuff, it's Paul. It's not the Gospels. Yeah, but you got to keep that in mind too, right? That's interesting information, don't you think? We're talking the Gospels. We're talking. Mark is 60, let's say, 60-ish, 30 years after Jesus' ministry, right? Matthew and Luke are after 70. We're certain of that. John is somewhere between 90 and 120. Somewhere in there. Significant, right? Paul is fresh out of the gate.
Because he didn't live long, right, after that?
Well, he goes on 3 missionary tours. He goes out and about and then gets his head chopped off in Rome. Yeah. And Peter is martyred in Rome too. That's why Rome becomes, it's one of the reasons why Rome becomes the center of Christianity. Those 2 martyrs. Peter and Paul. It's fun. Kind of fun, isn't it?
He said Peter and Paul were both martyred in,
Rome.
and Stephen?
Stephen was martyred, I think, in Jerusalem. I think
Oh,
this is. Yeah, he's the first martyr. A deacon. Yeah, it's something. It's some story. All right, so so he's heading over to Damascus. And what happens? He's on his way. He's on the way. He gets knocked off his horse.
And here's the voice of the Spirit.
So is he hallucinating? Is he
No,
Is-
it's the others.
right? He hasn't gone, psychotic because Diane, this is your moment to shine.
What?
He's not psychotic because
Well, there's others around him that witnessed it.
they
They
hear it too.
Well, he just heard it. I mean, they all heard it, I guess.
They all heard it. They all heard it, right?
They saw a light, or he saw the light.
Yeah, there's light,
They didn't know where the voice came from.
right? But they heard it.
Right.
Yeah. So this isn't a person that has a psychotic break.
So why does Paul say, "Who are you, Lord"? Is that just a term that they use?
Well, see, yeah, it's a term of what?
It's like sir?
Power
Or
and
you,
respect.
sir?
Mhm. Yeah. Obviously, got more power than he does. So he's some kind of a lord. Yeah, that's good. And then what else does he say? What does the voice say?
Why do you persecute me?
Why are you persecuting me?
leaves no doubt.
So the voice, let's just say the voice. I don't think it says the Spirit, right? Just calls it the voice.
I like the comment in that passage when it was being reread about his eyes were, it's funny because I just read it the other day, but it hit me really clear when Barbara was just reading it. His eyes were opened and he saw no man. It did not, in my King James, it doesn't say,
okay.
doesn't say, and he didn't, his eyes were open to see. It says
Right.
that his eyes were open and he saw no man. So he definitely was seeing in the spirit.
I don't know if the King James translated that very well. The King James Bible is not a terrific translation.
I think it hits my heart, spirit, more than other ones.
I'm just saying it's just not a very good
So I'm just saying that
Yeah.
the way the words were written.
Sure.
King James, it hit me that it makes complete sense to me.
Okay.
Because
All right, it resonates
the
with you.
people that were there, man was there, heard the voices, but they
Okay.
didn't see.
Okay.
Where Paul saw and heard, that's why it hit me so hard. That he didn't see man, couldn't see man, but he could obviously have that
Okay.
knowing of the Spirit.
All right. Okay.
I don't see where it says that he saw, that Paul saw.
No, there was a light from heaven. He saw I guess it was just the light from heaven
And he
flashing.
knew it was Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, he says, who are you?
Yes, right,
And the voice names itself. I am Jesus,
right.
whom you are persecuting. But rise and go into the city, you'll be told what to do. I'm reading from the Revised Standard Version, which is pretty literal, for the most part. But translation issues are an issue, as you expect after 2,000 years. So he rose and his eyes were open, but he couldn't see anything. Now let's talk about that a minute. Have you ever had your eyes open and you couldn't see a thing? What about metaphorically?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you have your eyes open and not see?
Very
Yeah.
prevalent nowadays, I think.
In
Yeah.
the Spirit realm.
I'm not even talking about the spirit. I'm just talking about your eyes are open, but you don't see what's happening.
Oh. Like when you're in a zone.
You're in a different zone.
Like shooting a basketball into the hoop and you don't see anything.
Right. Or you see a murder and you don't call it murder.
Oh,
I mean, that's happening with all these murders. There are people that see the evidence.
but they don't see it.
They don't see it as a problem.
Oh,
It's not a problem.
that's a problem.
Don't you think? I think murdering kids is a problem.
Yeah.
There are people in the government who see murdered kids and they do not think it's a problem.
Yeah, right.
So you have your eyes open, in other words, and I don't, it's easy to, go after politicians. They're idiots. But, is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, well, that's unfortunate.
Oops.
Get another bullet.
They're blind. They don't see.
Yeah, and isn't one of the tricks of being a fully formed adult is to be able to see?
Reality.
Yeah, see reality
But
as
you
it
have to
is.
have the moral understanding of things. If you're ignorant of that, which happens a lot.
Well, if you're a sociopath, you
I don't
can't
know.
see and
I think that when people, and this is just from my experience with a lot of different people I help in different cultures and environments, they see something all the time, it becomes a norm.
we're good.
They don't
point,
think
right?
that it's at all wrong.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much you
See,
teach the person or share that's really not right. They go, what do you mean it's not right? Everybody's doing that or seeing that perception.
right, okay, got it.
You know?
Well, this is the situation with Paul. He's got his eyes wide open. He can't see a thing. It's kind of funny. Don't you think? It's a little bit funny when I read that. And the man that saw everything. He's a Pharisee of the
Thought he
Pharisees.
saw everything.
He was a student of Gamaliel, which he bragged about all the time. And so he went to Harvard. So what? And and he's just he's just fabulous. And he's blind.
Right.
Pretty funny, I think, actually.
Isn't that with what the Bible speaks a lot about, with the scales over somebody's eye?
Yes, yeah,
And until they really believe, the scales are not lifted.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, how many times does Jesus heal blind people? It's a big deal. And he's not always talking about eyesight.
Right.
He talks to the Pharisees that way too. You guys are blind.
Right.
God, you are blind guides. Yeah, okay, so let's see what happens to him. Somebody want to start at 10 and go through 19? Try that.
Now there was a disciple in Damascus named Ananias. The Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias. He answered, Here I am, Lord. The Lord said to him, Get up and go to the street called Straight, and at the house of Judas look for a man of Tarsus named Saul. At this moment he is praying. He has seen a vision. A man named Ananias came in and lay his hands on him so that he might regain his sight. But Ananias answered, Lord, I've heard from many about this man, how much evil he has done to your saints in Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priests to bind all who invoke your name. But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is an instrument whom I have chosen to bring my name before Gentiles and kings and before the people of Israel. I myself will show him how much he must suffer for the sake of my name. So Ananias went and entered the house. He laid his hands on Saul and said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on your way here, has sent me so that you may regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. And immediately something like scales fell from his eyes, and his sight was restored. Then he got up and was baptized, and after taking some food, he regained his strength.
Well, there's the scales. Yeah, thanks.
Scales fell from his eyes.
Yeah. So, talk to us about Ananias. I've said before, I've said this a bunch of times, but I think it takes empathy to read the Bible well, or read anything well, or watch a movie, anything, talking to a friend. You have to have empathy. In other words, you have to enter the story, their story, if you can. What about Ananias? Tell me about him.
Well, it says he was a disciple.
So he's a Christian in Damascus. Okay.
Obedient Christian.
Obedient. Okay.
Clean vessel.
Okay.
I like the
He's
street
praying.
called Straight.
Straight Street.
Is that meaningful in some way?
Straight Street.
The straight street.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Well, the way, the path
way?
is probably
Yeah, I like
straight.
it. Okay.
Straight.
All right. I like it. I like it. I hadn't thought of that. Sure. And so is he praying? What's he doing?
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Well, he has a vision. He has a vision.
Uh-huh.
Right? So he's open. He's open to visions. And what's the 411? What's the word on it? What's the word? Go. I got a little job for you.
Little job.
Got a little job? I want you to meet this really nice guy named Saul.
God's basically saying, trust me.
Trust me, this guy is coming.
This is my will.
Yeah, and he's going to meet with this guy who was intending to do some serious damage in Damascus. A real threat. This guy's a real threat. Saul. Why don't you go see him and help him out, right? And what does he say? What does Ananias? I love the Bible for this. There's a lot of normal talk in the Bible. This is part of it. What does Ananias say to the Lord?
He said he knows this guy's
He's an evil
He's a
man.
bad guy.
Are you kidding me?
What?
You want me to what? He's packing his bags trying to get out of town, you know. Saul's coming, it's like a storm, you know. He's already killed Stephen, I'm sure they knew about it. So,
has the authority to bind everybody in his name, so I guess he has the authority to kill them, I guess.
yeah, oh yeah. He's gonna clean
I
house.
don't wanna go see him.
I'm gonna give hospitality to this guy? Are you kidding?
Send somebody else.
What? Maybe it wasn't a vision, it was just crazy, you know? But what did he do?
Follow instructions.
He does it. I think it was Jesus that said, love your enemies.
Yeah. And trust
Ring
them.
has a ring to it. Okay.
I wonder why they felt the need to name the street Straight.
Straight Street, yeah.
I thought that was
It's neat, isn't it? Why would they, Diane? Why might they have?
Like,
I mean, that may have been the name of the street, but, you know, what?
goes with the straight and narrow.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, doesn't it have that kind of flavor? Is the Bible sort of winking at us, maybe?
Yeah, we can have.
There are many places in the Bible where the Bible's winking at us, you know.
Yeah.
You know. Okay. Straight Street. There's Calver Street in Amsterdam. That's one of the main. That's where all the cows were herded down the road to be sold. Kalverstraat. There's Market Street in most cities, right?
How about Friendly Lane in Millbrook?
Yeah, Friendly Lane, which has a fabulous reputation for that very thing. Okay, all right, so he takes him in. He is obedient. This crazy thing. Have you ever heard a voice say go do something and you wouldn't want to do it?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah?
But if you're a vessel of Christ, obedient, you have a discussion, and then you go do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you should be doing
Didn't this whole thing start with something like this with Abram and Sarai?
it. Yeah.
Get going. I mean, they're over at the fountains, retired. Ur the Chaldees was the place to retire in the Middle East. They had running water and toilets, and it was fabulous. We know a lot about Ur of the Chaldees. And so they're living out their retirement over at the fountains. Get you going. Get going. Again, movement. Get going. Get going, get up, and get going to Straight Street.
And they question God too.
Almost all of them do. That's what I mean. So many of the, I can't think of any of the humans in the Bible that don't have a human response that I can think of.
Well, you have to, I think they question it because they can't believe it, number one.
Right, it's ridiculous.
But also, I think the question to make sure they're actually hearing it right, too.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah, are you discerning the word? You know? Yeah. Get you going. Go. I've said that many times here, I think. Right? Get going. Be God's people. Say yes. Say yes to everything. See what happens.
Everything
Huh?
good. You say yes to everything good, on the good side.
Well, you don't always know, right? You don't always know what's going to be good or bad. You don't
No,
know.
I mean, not typically off morality.
Well, look at Jesus. He's kind of said yes to everything. Look at who he hung out with.
I know, but it wasn't out of moral standing that I would think.
Prostitutes and tax collectors
Oh,
and
no,
sinners.
that's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm saying, don't sleep with the prostitute.
Well,
I'm not
that's probably not the greatest idea for many reasons, but
Yes, go talk to the prostitute, but don't sleep with the prostitute.
all right. Okay. So we got this guy. He's going to drag Saul. Scales fell from his eyes. What's it like to have scales falling from your eyes if you're totally pointed this way? Isn't that what we're talking about? Right? We're not talking about physical sight. He could have been blind too. You could have hysterical blindness, right? You ever seen that? I've seen that. Hysterical blindness. But that's not, I don't think that's what they're talking about. We're talking about he is hell-bent to go this way, as a Pharisee. This is what, we're going to clean house. And now he's going to go that way. Has that ever happened to you where you had that kind of a moment? Like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going that direction. I'm going to go this direction. That ever happened to you?
Like the rug, we would say the rug came from underneath our feet.
There you go. Yeah.
You have to regroup.
Yeah. Right. Have you known anyone that's done that? If you haven't met anybody like that, just go over, after we're done, go over to that room.
Yeah.
Every single person in the room has had that. Or is in the midst of it. Where you hit bottom, if you will. I'm talking their language. And I've been going my whole life this way, and now I'm going to go that way. What does that reorientation do to a person?
It makes you look at everything in a different light. And you know my experience
Right.
with two of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I told the whole congregation.
Yes, you
about.
did. And they loved it.
And I think once you get that feeling of, boy, was I wrong? How could I have ever been that way? How could I have ever even thought that way?
Yeah.
About both of the things I talked about. It's like, looking back now, I was never that way, but I was just on the wrong path.
Thought process.
And right now, I mean, I just look at everything, and as you say, you kind of go in the other direction, I think.
And you're looking
And
through
you're
a different
looking-
lens.
You're looking at everything differently.
Yeah, yeah.
More
That's,
open, probably.
well, that's what we call hermeneutics. You're reading
Right. I read
everything
things
through
differently.
these glasses.
I look at everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I look at how the people who were looking at it like I was then, now,
Mhm.
I keep saying, how can they not see? How can they not,
Yeah.
how can they be that way?
Yeah,
How can
yeah.
they think that way?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I had a reporter just before class. I had a reporter in my office, and she said, "Well, what's it about? What's this about? What is it?" Kind of interesting question.
This meaning,
The whole faith, the church. I mean, what is it? What is this thing? And I said, it's a love story.
oh,
I said, the Bible at its core is a love story. It's not about rules. It's not about regulations. It's not about laws. All those things are in there, of course.
Interesting love story.
It's a love story.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that, those are the glasses that you wear when you're reading this. Those are the glasses.
Yeah.
Main character is Jesus,
Yeah.
I think, right? Do you? Main character of the Bible is Jesus? Okay. So it's a love story, and I'm going to read this story because he's the main character, and he's going to show us how to do it. And then we have to make it our own. Like Ananias has to make this his own. He's got to grab it, do it. Right? It's a love story. If it's not a love story, I have no interest in this whatsoever myself.
Love story that you're part of, you're part of.
It's a love story between God and humanity.
Right, that you're connected, not living the love story by yourself.
You have to say yes. You have to
yeah.
say yes.
Right, it's connection.
Yeah, I want to be part of this.
Relationship, yeah.
Yeah, Ananias, I want to say yes. Saul, I want to say yes to this story. I want to enter this story, this love story, as you are, he's going to have flaws through the whole thing. I could pick out 6 flaws of his. But, as we are, we enter this love story as fully as we can. Make sense?
Yes.
If it's not a love story, I'm not interested. I couldn't care less about Christianity. A lot of Christians don't think it's a love story, by the way. A lot of Christians do not believe what I just said, and they are in serious error, in my opinion.
That's why
Serious error.
It says, as you would say, it says one. You're not like saying, okay, I know who Jesus is, he's all of love, but I'm over here doing my thing.
Right, and we got to be a part of it.
Yeah, you're right,
Right.
connected.
You have to be loving, redemptive.
Right,
be involved in loving, redemptive acts in order, and it's not about talking, it's about doing.
Being, yeah.
Yeah, it's about doing. And yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, if you meet your next minister, whoever that's going to be, and they're spouting this stuff over here, laws, regulation, better do this, better be, get rid of that
The book of
person.
James, right? The book of James is all about.
Well, the book of James, yeah, that's a good
I don't know
that's a good
about,
point.
I'm just saying in general.
Martin Luther hated the book of James, by the
I
way.
know you-
It was the epistle of straw, he called it. But I think in the context, if you call yourself a Christian, then you're going to act in a Christian way.
Right.
He's talking about integrity. The book of James is talking about integrity. If you really are a Christian, you want to be part of this way, then it's going to show up in your actions.
Right,
I find that perfectly acceptable.
yeah. 'Cause
If
you
you're
can follow
doing-
those actions if you are committed in the love of Christ.
Right, if you're doing, yeah, exactly. If you're doing those actions to get the attention and favor of God, you're totally on the wrong path.
Right,
Which people say too. I've been a good person, blah, 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 therefore I deserve to go to heaven. Well, that's ridiculous.
right,
It's about grace.
right.
Okay,
I get it.
you want to keep going? It's kind of funny, right? It's 10:02. So you know.
I just wanted to say that I thought it was kind of interesting the way Jesus is saying to him, I've picked him, I've chosen to bring my name before the Gentiles, the kings, and before the people of Israel, through Saul.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about that in a minute. We're not going to go through this, we'll do the other half next week. But we've got a conversion of a person, Saul. But what is he bringing to the game? What does he bring to this?
Well, I'm thinking because he's so educated, maybe he'll be able to speak the different languages, or...
He's a Roman citizen too, we'll find that out.
He had the connection
He had
to
connections.
get in the door.
And his parents had connections, that's how he got it. His parents also had connections, that's why he got citizenship. Were you gonna say something, Karen?
Well, wasn't going to say it, I was just thinking it, but he was a respected Jew.
Very highly respected.
And for him to bring the story particularly to the people of Israel would, maybe he would be have more influence because of his status as a respected Jew.
Absolutely right. Everybody hear that?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know.
Well, we'll skip you, Karen. I got a long way to go to be a human being. I got a long way to
He
go.
had the key. To
Karen, could you speak to Karen?
I said something, I don't remember exactly, that Paul was a respected Jew, and especially bringing the word of Jesus to the people of Israel, it would have more influence on them because of his background.
Are you saying the people of Israel, Jews?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Jewish population.
But it's stressing he's going to be the voice to the Gentiles.
And kings and the people of Israel. There's three groups that are mentioned
All right.
there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just took the people of Israel to mean the Jewish population that has not accepted
fair
Christ
enough.
yet.
Yeah. What about the Gentiles, though? Or what are they going to be thinking about? Who's this dude?
He's high. Saul is highly educated. He, as I said, he studied under Gamaliel, and if you hear that, people are going to say, "Whoa!" I studied under Bastian Ben Eldrin. I wasn't a very good student, but he's
Listen up.
very well known, and he's dead now. But I didn't kill him, but maybe. But yeah, when I go back to Western Michigan to visit, I was a student of Bastian Ben Eldrin. I got street cred because of that. It's a big deal. I studied with John Hesslink, who studied with Karl Barth, who's probably the most famous theologian since Augustine. A lot of people say that. So I've got that kind of lineage. I mean, a little way. I mean, obviously, I'm not anything, but
The clout to listen to have that.
he's got real clout. Yeah. So he is absolutely prepared to enter all of those worlds, the worlds of kings, the world of the Gentiles. He knows all this. He knows languages. He's a Roman citizen. He studied under Gamaliel. He is armed to the teeth as far as his experiences.
He's very highly qualified.
Very highly qualified. Yeah.
Well, if Jesus chose him, I would think he would be.
Right. And alternately, can you imagine, someone like Peter doing this? He's a fisherman. Right? Not going to work. You got to have somebody. And as we know, with the letters of St. Paul, it's about half of the New Testament. He is the one that frames this thing as far as what does the life, teachings, death, and resurrection of Jesus mean? If you don't have St. Paul, you that whole piece of the so what, as I call it. Who cares? What difference does it make? St. Paul is the one that shapes all that. This is why you should care. Otherwise, you just have a naked little Jew on a cross. So what? Doesn't make any difference. He's the one that shapes all that theologically. That's why we have churches. It's because of Jesus primarily, but it's also because of St. Paul.
So if you relate that to nowadays, or throughout the generations, speaking of the group next door, God constantly uses people that have been through that hell hole of just despair and not seeing any way out, and if they're drinking or drugging, whatever the situation is, evil, killing, he uses those people that have clout in that thinking thought process because they say, well, he's been there or she's been there.
Exactly.
To listen to what that person says as opposed to someone who's naive and innocent and never doing anything. That person would have a more difficult time being even entertained.
Yeah, the people that don't have it, there's a group called Al-Anon. Those are for the failures who have tried to talk alcoholics out of being alcoholics. They're failures. Yeah, you go to an Al-Anon meeting, it's pretty quiet because we've all failed. I've been to many in my lifetime, and we're all failures.
Because they haven't had the roots, right?
That's right.
That these other people are needing to grasp onto.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I understand.
The phrase "I've been there" means a lot.
Yes.
It's not everything,
Yes.
but it means a lot. So, all right. So we've got Saul, who's going to be Paul pretty soon. He's going to be an apostle. It's a funny, the book of Acts. I've talked to you about this before, but it's really about two people. It's about Paul and Peter. It's not about all the disciples. Most of them just disappear after Jesus' resurrection. Immediately after Jesus' resurrection, it's focusing on two people.
When I was reading we actually caught up with Acts. When I was reading it, I felt very strongly, I remembered what you said about the apostles, like it's really the action of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
When I was reading it, I felt very strongly about certain, and I don't have a gift of retention, unfortunately, but about certain apostles that were in here that were instrumental in the carrying out that miraculous, like the Gate of the Beautiful, these miraculous things. They were just this open vessel. And I noticed when it said something about that they pulled him up with their right hand, I just saw the whole kingdom of God, of the right hand of Christ, taking care of the whole situation. And the apostle was just that was the being that God used.
Mhm.
And I understood the use of the acts of the Holy Spirit for sure. But if from my perspective, my calling, it wasn't for that apostle at that moment being led there. That
The
act
vessel.
would have happened, you know?
Yeah. Well, and this is all kind of fun to talk about and interesting maybe. But the point of this, and I've said this over and over again, the Bible is saying, doing this, what about you? It's always in conversation with the reader and the hearer. It's always in conversation. It's dialogic. The Bible is dialogic. What about you? Where are you in this story? Can God call you to something? Can God use your gifts, your talents, to a redemptive end? Can God use you to help move this thing, the on the way thing? Do you think that can happen to you?
At any level, yeah.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, at any level.
Right? The answer is yes. And come on along. Jesus with the fishermen. Come on, guys. They had probably no idea or little idea what they were getting themselves into, right? They're fishing every day. Come on.
But they had faith, right? My understanding.
Well, that's why they got up and left.
Yeah.
That's faith.
They were
They
waiting
literally got up and left.
Messiah,
Yeah, okay. It's a great story, and we can be a part of it. It's terrific. I mean, I was a beach bum.
I thought you were a fisherman, Bob.
No, I did a little fishing then too, but I was mostly on the beach just goofing around for a long time. My whole childhood. All right.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Have fun at the lunch. Tell the ladies I said hi. I know some of them.
I will.
Thanks so much.
I did today because I wanted to.
Yeah. And the God who wrestles with us. That's a compliment.
It's not that fascinating.
Well, yeah. This is how it all starts. He wrestles with right, the Lord or whatever it is on the Jabbok River. And afterwards he says, you are Jacob, or you are Israel. You were Jacob, now you're Israel. Because you have striven with God. That's King James. So people
This is the life of Christ.
That was something that when they were traumatic.
Yes.
always. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good. All right. Diane.
Hey, you know how I always like that saying, I am the vine and you are the branches?
Yeah.
Well, on 9, going towards, let's say you're up in Rhinebeck and you come back south. On the left is a church and they always put out a sign.
Yeah.
It was really cute. It said, so he is divine,
Yeah.
and you are the branches.
The branches.
That's great.
Oh, they're having fun.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
I don't know.
1, 2, 3.
I've never had so much fun in my whole life.
Oh,
Diane, you're a little sore?
yeah, well, now I go to the gym and work it out.
All right. Are you coming tonight?
Yeah.
Good. It should be a good meeting. Interesting. I think.
I'm gonna warn you, I don't wanna do this thing about